Good evening. Happy Friday. Shabbat Shalom. We have made it. And I'm tired today. And so welcome to Living Waters, falling deeper in love with God's Word. I'm one of your hosts, Lauren Cruz.
And I am Stephanie Pavlantos. Thank you for joining us today. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Okay, let's get
still in Romans.
We are. We still are. All right, let's take care of housekeeping. Everything is playing except for Facebook.
Yeah, so you are not playing on your Facebook page.
I got to send him a note. Mark, we need you. I got a few things I need to help. I need his help with. So are you able to share since it's not
fine? We'll pull it up on YouTube and share it from YouTube.
Okay.
That way.
And everything else is working. And are you on the right side? The correct side?
I am.
Okay, I'm trying. Well, hi, Stephanie. How are you? We almost lost track of time. We were looking around and I don't know if it's too soon to share, but Stephanie has good news. So we were talking about that and we got sidetracked.
Yes, we were. I'll just sorry, I'm just pasting my stuff together here on. Come on. There we go. Maybe. I don't know if it's going to play. Oh, well. Okay. Yes. So I think I already kind of got rid of it. But yes, I'm restarting my podcast starting April 1st. It's a new. I do have a picture that I can show if I
share it.
Pull it up.
Okay, as much as I hate AI, it's kind of a great thing.
This one doesn't have. Yeah, I gotta find the other one. I know. I did make this with AI because it was it just gave more of a feel of what I wanted than I'm not that artistic to be able to put that together as well.
Right.
If I were more artistic, maybe I could bring it all together somehow, but it doesn't happen for me. So let me just share my screen.
Absolutely.
And put it on there. See, there it is. Oh. That's not a real good picture because it's still on Canva, but that is my first episode here. If you don't know who Hebrew Haha is, she goes by Yael S. Worth, and she is on Facebook as Hebrew Haha. And she puts out funny memes and songs and all sorts of stuff. She's very artistic, so she's going to be grafted Jewish roots of Christianity is coming.
Yay! I'm excited for you.
Thank you.
I want to do podcasting, but I feel I haven't come up with the theme yet, and I don't want to compete with you. And I feel like there's a lot already out there, and I probably should beef up my, social media presence even more. I know I need to do all that. So I can't think of anything. You're already doing what I would do. So there's already one there.
I know.
Yeah. So
I know. I understand. So it is. Yeah. But she'll be a guest. I'll put you on my show.
I'll live vicariously through you.
I have some guests lined up, and so Passover, that'll be actually the first morning it begins. So
that's great. That's great.
I'm excited. It's kind of just funny because I was, just praying about it and thought, and the Lord just said, you did it. You knew how to do it. You were, somewhat good at it. So go do it. Go do it. I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
So, oh, well, we'll see.
That's good. I'm proud of you.
Thank you. So,
all right.
Okay, we're
back in
Romans 11.
Romans. And I'm going to be honest, I didn't finish reading the whole thing because I didn't think we'd get all the way to the end.
We may not, but I finished it. But
okay.
We're starting on 288, right? That's where I have the word start.
288, and I did get all the way through. I got far.
I think there's
304.
okay. I
So
think there's so much more in this chapter
yeah,
than we give it credit for. We don't we just think of being grafted in, and then we kind
yeah,
of that's how we describe chapter 11.
yeah.
But there's so much more here, and I think it's a good chapter to take slowly because when we started this out, he was basically talking to the straw man who was saying, in that case, I say, isn't it that God has rejected or repudiated his people? So, and then Paul responds with, heaven forbid, and we're often told God's rejected his people. He's replaced them with the church. And Paul's here, right here. He's saying, God forbid or heaven forbid. No, that's not true.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to remember that this question is being asked by a strong man. It's an imaginary person he is arguing with.
Mm-hmm.
And don't take his straw man comments as truth.
Mm-hmm.
He's actually his adversary, devil's advocate type of thing. But
Right.
and he says, for I myself am a son of Israel from the seed of Abraham of the tribe of Benjamin. So right away, he's giving his heritage, which is also a very Jewish thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then he builds this whole argument, which we talked about last week, and basically just saying, if Jesus, Yeshua grafts us in, and you have to remember the tree is Israel. It's not
Right.
Judaism. The tree isn't Yeshua. The tree is Israel, and we're grafted into Israel.
Right.
And the roots are the patriarchs. And
Right.
so even
You're doing it well.
Yeshua
You're doing it well. I mean, and that I think that's the biggest number one point is this tree is not the church and it's not Yeshua, which is important because you're not being grafted into Yeshua. You are being grafted into the root, which is thousands of years, the patriarchs, the promises,
the covenant.
the covenants. That's the root. And if we have if we are grafted in and the church is replacing that, that means he makes a statement. Then the whole thing's been dug up and cast aside. You're telling me you're grafted in, but you're grafted into something that's been dug up and casted aside, or cast aside. So that the people we don't stop and think about that.
And the branches that are not in covenant with Yeshua are removed, which means any branch, any of us can be removed when we stop being in covenant with him.
Okay, so we're kind of dancing into some things that I think we probably should wade into a little bit slower because my takeaway from this week is, oh boy, God is in so much more control than we even give him credit for. And
we're not. We have no control over this.
We have zero control over this. He dabbles with the idea of predestination type thinking, but it's not what we have been taught in the church. It is so different.
Oh yeah, this is a really good point you're getting into. Yeah.
So
there's free will and predestination.
And
they're not at odds with each other.
They're not. It's side by side. And he said this before. There's mentions of God's chosen people. He chose you. He hardened their hearts. He's doing these things. God is doing those things because
just like he hardened
because he
Pharaoh's heart so that he could release his people, so that he could show all of Egypt his power.
Yeah.
It is his will. It is to harden our hearts to accomplish something else.
Right. And these are going to be some hard things to listen to and fully grasp. But this is what I mean. God is in way more control of this situation than we think. And, my mom and I have had different debates about, are the Jews going to be saved? And I say yes, because there's so much.
But it's not for time. It's
not their time yet. It's not time. Yeah.
Because there has to be a fullness of the Gentiles first, which is scriptural, biblical. and then he'll soften their hearts again,
Right.
so now they can hear him.
And it okay, we got so much. We got so
We
much to
do.
talk about. We have so much to talk about today. We need to go slower. We need to go
Yes.
slower.
But it's good stuff, and then you have to
Love your
understand that
questions.
this whole conversation,
Yeah.
and again, this is Paul's analogy.
Yeah.
This is how he's explaining it to his brothers. You've had hardened hearts, so God has allowed your heart to be hardened even more, so that you rejected the Messiah, so that those Gentiles that you despise, so that I could bring them into the kingdom.
Right.
That's a gift to the Gentiles that he did harden, because if he hadn't hardened their hearts,
we wouldn't have had a chance.
Yeah.
They would have taken the promises, and they would have continued on. Okay.
So
we left off on Romans 11 and 12. Okay.
This is a very important verses right here too.
Yeah.
So
okay. So in that case, I say to you, it isn't that they have stumbled with the result that they have permanently fallen away.
Yeah,
Heaven
that's the
forbid.
straw man.
That's the straw man. Heaven forbid. Quite the contrary. It's by means of their stumbling that the deliverance has come to the Gentiles. This is what she was just talking about. In order to provoke the Jews to jealousy. Moreover, if their stumbling is bringing riches to the world, that is, if Israel's being placed temporarily in a condition less favored than that of the Gentiles is bringing riches to the latter, how much greater riches will Israel in its fullness bring them?
Yeah. So when they come in, and again, we have to look at this according to scripture. When will they come into the kingdom? Well, pretty much at the end. They're going to see Jesus, Yeshua, come on his horse. And a really good book is what we've done before, the Feast of the Lord and the Second Coming of Yeshua. Isn't that what it was called?
Yes.
The Biblical Feast of the Lord or something like that, and the Coming of Yeshua. And he puts all the feasts together. So Passover isn't one and done. Passover has not been fully fulfilled, because he's going to use the same type of event when this kingdom, this Antichrist, this beast comes on. The beast is a kingdom. So when this beast comes into play, it's going to send all of these people who are basically, it actually describes them as they keep the commandments of God and the testimony of Yeshua. So them and others basically are all going to be going into the wilderness, and they'll be captured. They'll be made slaves. They'll be killed. All sorts of things are going to happen at that point. But God's going to protect some of them, and or if not most of them. But then he's going to bring them back. So we often see, like, God puts his feet down, or Yeshua will be at the Mount of Olives, but that's not the first place he goes. If you read Isaiah, he shows us, like Isaiah starting like 11, 12, 13, 14, all of those chapters say in that day. And they talk about a time still to come, even in our future. And then he takes you through this journey that he's going to go to Egypt and bring them out of Egypt. He's going to bring them out of Syria. He's going to bring them out of the Middle East, back to Jerusalem. And then he'll be at the Mount of Olives. So he has a lot to do before he ever comes to the Mount of Olives, because in his train will be all of these Jewish people who look at him, see him, and recognize that he's the one they pierced, and they will sob. They will turn to him and realize that he was the Messiah. So these things have to happen, and it's much bigger than we give it credit for and that we've been taught.
Very much so. And I don't think the church is going to be raptured out.
No, we're kind of like, and it's because that, and I heard someone once tell me that's not fair. If that doesn't happen, that's not fair. Well,
we're lucky. We're lucky to be a part of this.
Because not one of us is good enough to say that we deserve, and we have not done anything wrong, deserving of refinement, and that will be a time of refinement. We will have to trust in him.
if you're saying it's not fair that the church doesn't get a special whatever, you're telling me the church now then is going to be more important than him dealing with his covenant people.
Right.
So yeah, I think there's some thinking that's been very distorted. So
Yeah.
So
we have to read
we are
scripture carefully.
fortunate to have a part of this,
Mhm.
but it is only to make them jealous.
Yeah, and we haven't done a very good job in making
Stephanie
them
and I have
jealous.
talked about that for the last 2 weeks. We have mentioned what it, we really have not done a good job in making Jewish believers jealous. And just looking through the spans of time, we've talked about this.
Yeah.
How the church has handled things,
We
doctrine,
need to do better.
the separation between. It's just not good.
Mhm.
Okay, so he
289
yep, 289. What you got?
is very important. So you want to just skip to this: predestination and predetermination stand in opposition to other theological doctrines with names such as what is that? Free will.
Pre-science and free will.
Yeah, it looks like
Pre-science.
pre-science, but I didn't think it was probably pronounced that way. And free will. So we think of them as being opposition, just like we think of grace and Torah being in opposition. They are not.
They're not.
They're not in opposition. And I saw a great meme today, and it said, I gotta look it up, but Sarah Williams wrote it out.
I saw
And
that.
it says justification changes your status.
Mhm.
So we're all saved through our trust in Messiah. 100%. We're all saved. That's the only way we're saved. But sanctification changes your direction. One reconciles, one reforms. So first, justification reconciles us to the Father, and we're made righteous. Our debt is wiped clean. But sanctification changes our direction. It reaches in and changes the inner self, and it reforms. It not redeems. What's the word I want?
I'm thinking realigns.
Realigns us, and it restores. It restores. That's probably the word that I'm looking for. But it doesn't just restore us. Justification restores us to God, but sanctification restores our, gets rid of our evil inclination instead of, and helps us live with good inclination, which is basically two masters, which is another whole story. But we don't get it.
Okay. What else on 289? Anything else?
So I just had the very bottom. Paul, at the very last sentence, Paul merely tells us that on one hand, our own free will plays an enormous role in our destiny, but on the other hand, so does God's divine intervention. And his intervention is not necessarily for each person's immediate benefit. Often there is a much larger picture in play of which we have no idea.
Yeah.
So lots going on behind.
So, and this is the point that we need to really make sense of, because it's going to help us understand even the next verse. It says, God reached down from heaven to intentionally harden the hearts of thousands, millions of his own elect, in order that the gospel would be taken to the Gentiles who were not his elect, so that the Gentiles could be saved. And that's the part that I think is hard for people to understand is, yes, Israel rejected, yes, the Jews rejected Yeshua, but also God has hardened their hearts, and not all of them have rejected. He didn't harden all of their hearts, because there has to be the remnant, there has to be a remnant.
And there's Messianic Jews walking around today in Israel and around the world. So
yes. But for the most part, for the majority of them, their hearts have been hardened towards the message. So not only are we not doing our part in making them jealous, the interactions that we are trying and we are doing and we are moving, they're not received, well. They're not received well, because their hearts are hardened. But think about that, because then it makes sense. in Ezekiel, and we'll get there, when he says, I'm going to soften their heart. I'm going to replace their heart of stone. What heart of stone? What do you mean a heart of stone? So that makes sense now when you have
and I think it's important to read the, like we try to take things and make them a promise to you or a promise to me. And it's like all the promises in the Hebrew scriptures are for Israel. Now, that doesn't mean, because again, when we understand that now we're grafted into Israel, we can go back and we can look at those, and everywhere he says, hey, Israel, I'm talking to you. We're included in that now. So when back in Exodus, when God tells Moses, tell Israel this, tell Israel that, tell Israel I'm making these feast days.
It wasn't just Jews there, Hebrews. It wasn't just Hebrews there. Right. And if you don't think that it applies to non-Hebrew people, there's 2 points to it. Number one, when the law was given, there were plenty of Gentiles in that group of people, plenty. And also, Abraham was a Gentile. He's the original OG, And so for God to even invite that covenant with him shows, that this covenant is for the world. And it says, and the nations and the world will be brought by you, because I think of him being, he's got a foot in both worlds. He's the Gentile, but he's also in covenant. And in the first person that Yeshua reveals himself to is Jew and Gentile, if you will, because the Samaritan woman was, Hebrew. She was a Hebrew descent, but she was rejected
of the northern kingdom.
Yes, and she was considered a Gentile for the most part because she wasn't part of the, wasn't in good. So
she was
fulfilled both as well.
They were half breeds according to the Jews.
That's it. That's
they weren't fully Jewish.
Yes,
because the northern tribe, going all the way back to Kings and Chronicles, had been. That's where their headquarters was, so to speak. That's where their capital was. Instead of Jerusalem, it was Samaria. So that's a whole nother story. But you said some good things in there. But that was a good point, because I know what I was going to say. So when you were saying something about Abraham, he's our father. He's father of the Gentiles. He's a father of the sons of God. So when we now, we've talked about this, the renewed covenant is the Abrahamic covenant. It is the royal land grant. So we've been given this land, which is basically inheriting the earth. That's our land. But just as he went from Gentile to Hebrew, that's the same journey that we're on.
Right.
We start out as a Gentile, but we cross over from pagan into holy.
Yes.
From common, from uncommon or unclean to clean. So that is our same journey. We walk in the footsteps of Abraham. And I think it's important to understand that.
I agree.
So
I agree. Let's see.
It says
the goal is for Israel to be saved, and I also have Gentiles must surely have re-identified himself more as a Gentile than with his original heritage. And this is where a lot of people are like, oh, Paul is converted. All right. He identifies more now as a Gentile. That's why he says, I'm a Jew, a Pharisee of the tribe of
Abraham.
Right. I mean,
tribe of Benjamin. He didn't give anything up. But he also, that's why he goes back to his brothers, his Jewish brothers and sisters, and talk about Abraham. Do you realize Abraham was a Gentile when he was in covenant with God? It wasn't until 29 years later that he was circumcised. So he's making this point, like, hey, Gentiles can come in. So.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else?
Are you ready to read verses 13 through 15?
I can.
He just says here Romans 11:13, he abruptly changes up and turns primarily now towards Gentiles because he's
Right.
been talking to his brothers, his Jewish
Right.
brothers.
Right. Because he says, however, to those of you who are Gentiles. So there's a big shift. And I think that's important too, because everybody, like everyone, Paul is the ambassador to the Gentiles. Okay. But a lot of his writing is strictly to the Jews. And you
Yeah,
have to pay attention
Galatians,
to that.
he's talking to the Jews, and a lot of Romans, he's talking to the Jews. So
He is. Okay. We read 13 through 15, did we not? Yeah, it was to provoke my own people to jealousy. And to
well, that
say,
was a different verse. He repeats that.
Okay. However, to those of you who are Gentiles, so now he's repeating it, he's talking to the Gentiles. I say this, since I myself is the emissary sent to the Gentiles. See? Okay. I make known the importance of my work in the hope that somehow I may provoke some of my own people. So again, he's saying I'm still a Jew. They're my people, to jealousy. Okay. And to save some of them. For if their casting Yeshua aside means reconciliation for the world, what will their accepting him mean? It will be life from the dead. So he's saying, look, you're supposed to provoke him to jealousy only so that more can be saved. And even I'm here to provoke them to jealousy.
Yeah. And he writes, Paul's purpose is to make sure that Gentile believers understand that just because God hardened the hearts of so many Jews in order that Gentiles would be saved, Gentiles shouldn't misunderstand God's motive for doing so.
Right.
He wants us to provoke them to jealousy. He wants to bring them back.
Right. Just to bring them back.
And it's funny here because he goes on. Most often when Paul is depicted in a painting, it is as a European.
I saw this.
Whether that's Spanish, English, or French, often he has a thin, pale face, a pointy mustache, and is tall and slender. And he says, I have seen few descriptions of Paul as an olive-skinned, dark-haired, brown-eyed Hebrew. But he goes, it's not by accident.
Yeah, for sure.
People want us to think he's given up his Jewishness. So
yeah. So he says, let's put aside this nonsensical fantasy that that Paul was some kind of convert to a Gentile or had any Gentile DNA in him whatsoever. He was a Jew through and through, proudly proclaimed his long Israelite heritage on several occasions recorded in Scripture.
Yeah, you want to read Philippians 3, 4, and 5 above that?
Yeah. So if I don't choke here, hang on. Okay, so he's already saying my own people, and he's already saying, I'm a Jew, a Benjaminite. But so in Philippians, he says, if anyone else thinks he has grounds for putting confidence in human qualifications, I have better grounds. And he says, I was bereaved. I had my circumcision on the 8th day. The brit is the circumstances. So Brit Milah on the 8th day. That's what every Jewish boy does. By birth, belonging to the people of Israel. By birth, from the tribe of Benjamin, a Hebrew speaker with Hebrew speaking parents, and in regard to Torah, a Pharisee. So. Yeah, somebody I read, I don't know if it was this book or another, I think it was this one. Paul's education was equal to him like going to Harvard.
I have heard that too. He was very good at what he did, and that's why he moved up the ranks so quickly. And
his grandfather was a very, very popular rabbi. So, yeah.
And he learned from his mentor was from the Hillel. So, yeah. On the next page, I actually, but before we go there, 291, I just have highlighted where it says that last paragraph in verse 15, he expounds upon his reasoning by saying that if Jews casting aside their Messiah means reconciliation with God for the world, that Jews in much larger numbers finally accepting Yeshua will have an even greater impact. So the world means, when he says the world, he is talking about the non-Jews. He is talking about the Gentiles. So
Yes.
And then the author of the book gives us John 17:1-8 to talk about the world, because that's what he's saying here. So in John 17, he gives 1-18, but he says, I am praying for them. This is Yeshua.
Yeah.
I am not praying for the
World.
world, the
Right.
Gentiles, but for those you have given me, these
Okay.
Jewish men and
I
women.
think it's important. Yeah. Go and check out John 17, 1-18. I mean, honestly, I'll tell you, I never really paid attention, like
Yeah,
that. Thank you
me
for the
neither.
people. You just read this and you don't even think about the point that's being made. But when you read it slowly and looking for, is there a difference between the world and those who belong to God, or the world and the Gentiles, or the world? Like when you're looking for that and then you reread it, you're like,
Yeah.
oh gosh, it's right there.
Yeah.
There are different groups being discussed.
Oh yeah, and I think we leave that out totally. We don't see that. And then he says, "Now, this is Yeshua, I am no longer in the world. They
Mhm.
are in the world, but I am coming to you." And then later on he says, "I have given them your word, and the world hates them. The Gentiles hate them
Mhm.
because they do not belong to the Gentile nations,
Yeah.
the world." So he said the world has a double meaning. On one hand, the world is meant as the secular people of our day
Right.
mean it, the way we mean it, the world, the whole human population of the planet Earth. But on the other hand, from a spiritual perspective, the world is the unsaved.
That's right.
So very interesting.
I thought so too.
Hmm.
Okay, Romans 11:16. Now, if the challah offered as first fruits is holy, I think in my Bible it says if the lump or the dough, a part portion of the dough is whole, of first fruit is holy, so is the whole loaf. And if the root is holy, so are the branches. And he goes into a lot to
Yeah.
discuss this.
Because they did the first part of the, and I didn't realize this, but when they made dough from the first harvest, they
Mhm,
took a portion of it and gave it to God. It was
mhm,
burned up
mhm.
on the altar. So
But he makes the point that, and I'm like, this is important because the church doesn't necessarily teach it this way. If you have a little piece of your dough, that dough is separated out from the loaf and
mhm,
it's dedicated to God, and
mhm.
the root is separated from God, out and dedicated to God. It doesn't make he's saying the whole, so is the whole loaf, and our author goes to explain that that's not what makes, there are plenty of trees who have healthy roots and rotting branches,
Yeah,
and
but
there's plenty. Go
mhm.
ahead. Go ahead if you want.
Yeah, but if so with the dough, like you said, if you pull a piece off, it still came from a healthy loaf.
Right.
This little part, if this is good, then the loaf it came from is good.
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes on, and if the root is holy, because let's face it, even in our own lives, we could be compared to a tree. I did this one class, and it was called living free, and basically they compared us to a tree. So those roots is where our unjust come from, where we're hurt, betrayed, wounded. If those are our roots, then the branches become rejected. It's like, think of it as your heart. So now these branches that grow from those deep wounds are
Sweet.
control,
Mm-hmm.
pride, fear, rejection, all sorts of things, shame, whatever. But then the leaves are the way we act and show what the underlying cause is. So when we're rejected, we act certain ways, and those are kind of the leaves of the tree. So in similarly with this,
Mm-hmm.
if the root is holy, then what comes from a holy root is going to be holy branches. And that's why we need to get rid of those wounds of betrayal and victimization, whatever has happened to us, through forgiveness. Because now, when our roots are good things sprout from us.
Produced.
Good
Right.
things come from our mouth. But
Right.
when we've been defiled, only bad things come. When we're full of shame, only bad things come out. So So it's kind of the same way. It's the same thing. So when our roots are good, then what springs from those roots is going to be good. It's going to be, holy. So
Okay. Anything else from 293, 294?
I did like Numbers 15.
That it's just an explanation. So when he uses the word challah, which
I don't know. I just had that highlighted. I forgot why I highlighted it.
15, it's where
that's where it came from.
Yeah. Speak to the people of Israel and tell them, when you enter the land that I'm bringing into you and eat bread produced in the land, you're to set aside a portion as a gift for Adonai. Set aside from your first dough a cake as a gift. That's the challah. The word. And set it aside as you would set aside a portion of the grain from the threshing floor from your first dough, and you will give Adonai a portion of the gift through all your generation. It's the first fruit. It's just honoring the first fruits and honoring. So,
and I think I said this before, but we did the Daniel fast, and I cannot believe how difficult it is to go back to the way I used to eat before the 3 weeks of the Daniel fast, because now I ate so cleanly that I felt good. Everything about me felt good. And now when I pick up something, because so much of our food has to be shelf stable, and, no grocer wants to go through and get rid of moldy stuff and bad stuff. So everything has to be made to be on the shelves for several weeks, if not longer. And so now when I look at ingredients, I'm just like, oh, most of those are just to keep it preserved, just to make sure that it doesn't mold in its wrappers. And we actually were making like just really clean flour, oil, water, bread. That's what we were making. Now that's how they made it.
Right.
That's how they made it. But yeah, does it taste the same? Is it as soft? Absolutely not. But now I can't even bring myself to buy some of the stuff I used to buy. So it ruined me for good, but it ruined
better for you anyway, honestly. And if you could really notch it up, is to get a better version of flour, because our flours have been processed so much.
Yeah, and we buy pearls.
Do you?
We buy the wheat pearls, and then Mike bought an electric grinder, so he grinds his own.
That's the way to do
the only
it.
thing I wish he would have done is, like, he bought 100% whole wheat. If we get some white whole wheat and put them together, it makes a little bit softer bread. So anyway, that was a whole rabbit trail. Sorry.
It's okay. I mean, in 3 weeks, you're able to notice a huge difference. So it's
very worth doing. I highly, and there are so many good recipes out there that you can try. Unless you just hate fruit and vegetables, then you won't do it. But because there's a whole group of people who are vegan, you can find their recipes and make really satisfying, filling meals. I realized I don't get full just from meat. I can actually get full from fruits and vegetables. So
good.
Anyway,
it's good. Okay.
He goes on 294. He starts talking about holy and unclean. Do you want to expound on that?
Let's see. Where are we at? Because
it's about halfway down the page. 294.
Yeah, I'm looking at as an example of the gospel. Is that what it is?
He says we find the same issue.
Okay, got it. Okay. We find the same issue with the terms holy and unclean. Okay, this is important. This is important. In the New Testament, those two terms indeed do have, on one hand, very precise definitions, but on the other hand, they're often used in broad and imprecise ways, because that's how common Jews of the day use them. He's making a point that Paul would use a specific word, and it kind of, like they understood, they got it. They understood the context or the way he was using that word. They got it. We've lost a lot of that, but we have other things, like we now have vocabulary that we get it because it's here and now. So, okay. So Jews of the day, for instance, technically, unclean is a term that only describes something that is otherwise a permissible item to eat. Like, it's just become unclean, but you can eat it, okay? An item to wear, touch, etc. When otherwise permissible items can no longer be used, due to some kind of error in handling. Like, yeah, chicken. I can eat a chicken. But something in the way it was handled or what it was exposed to,
Yeah.
it's unclean. It's unclean. Doesn't
If
mean
it maybe ate a carcass, they would probably
it was
consider it be unclean.
okay. That's a very good point, because chickens were banned from Jerusalem because chickens would pick at carcasses and they would
And
walk among
the
dead things.
waste from animals.
Yes, they're all exposed to that. So technically, chicken is a food, but it would be considered unclean if it's been defiled in some way. Okay. All right. So it's made ritually unclean. As an example, and here's another example: a piece of lamb to eat is a permissible food. However, if it's not handled properly, perhaps not enough blood has been drained from it, then the lamb is rendered unclean. Okay. So
then
what
on
is
the other
normal?
hand,
Yeah, so what's normally permissible can't be used now. On the other hand, if an item is considered as prohibited, then the handling of it becomes moot. No, it doesn't matter. Like a pig, like doesn't matter how you clean
pig
it
is
up.
not food. It's not just
Matter that you
unclean. It's not
butchered
food.
it properly. It doesn't matter that you scrubbed it all down before. It's not considered.
It doesn't matter if you blessed it and thank the Lord for it.
Okay, that's it. That's it. For instance, a pig can never be food. Technically, a pig is not unclean. It's merely prohibited to eat. It's not food, no matter how it's handled, whether something is prohibited or something is permissible. And that I think she got that, even if it's been blessed and prayed over. I think she got that off of Facebook this week, because I think I saw it too. Doesn't matter that you blessed it. Doesn't matter that you prayed over it. Yeah.
You can thank Lord for ham, but it doesn't mean
it's clean. It doesn't mean it's food. That's right. So that's the point that he's making with that.
So, and then he goes, the term holy has also become used in a similar fashion in the New Testament. So he goes on that now I'm at the top of 295. The term holy is used in both ways in the New Testament. So he says, let me give you an illustration. Christians are fond to say about a person that they admire that they are godly. They're a godly man or woman. We don't mean this from a technical sense that they are, that they are God-like or have any direct connection to God at all. Rather, it just means that they are good, upright, and not only profess to be religious, but live a life that reflects strong moral standards. Very likely, Paul meant holy in this sense, in reference to the lump and the whole loaf. So apparently, Paul was getting at that if a portion of the whole is holy before God, then it can be assumed that the entire portion is also holy, as opposed to unclean. So if the tree's roots are holy, then its branches must also be holy, since they are all parts of a whole.
Right.
WHOLE.
There you go.
So, but if a tree has roots that are unclean, then the unclean roots cannot have holy branches.
No.
And roots that are holy can't have unclean branches. So it can't happen. If the roots are holy, the branches are holy. If the roots are unclean, the branches are unclean.
Okay, here we go. We're going to jump into, he's going to continue with this agricultural metaphor. Okay, but if some of the branches were broken off and you, a wild olive, were grafted in among them and have become equal sharers in the rich root of the olive tree, then don't boast as if you were better than the branches. However, if you do boast, remember you're not supporting the root is supporting you.
Yeah, and I highlighted wild olive and equal sharers in the rich root, because it's very interesting. So somebody I had on my podcast explained this to me. She said there's the wild olive tree, which gave large olives, but they were bitter. And then there was the cultivated olive tree, which gave small olives, but they were sweet in the sense of the way they were good. So what she did is she said, now you graft in these large this branch from a large olive producing tree that is bitter into the roots of a tree that is making small olives that are sweet, so to speak. She goes, what do you get? She goes, you get large olives now that are sweet and good for tasting and good for using. And that's what that grafting is. It's taking a wild tree and grafting it into a cultivated olive tree to get better fruit. So I thought that was really cool, and that's what. But we're equal sharers.
Yeah.
So we're kind of, as the analogy goes, as Gentiles, we're giving the bigger fruit, and they're giving the good to taste fruit, in a sense, olives. And when you put those together, now you have a good combination of both, the good of both. So we're equal sharers, not one over the other.
Right. Okay, I liked this part. I have a lot in underlined. It just says, okay, so he asked the question, you're like, who's the wild olive, who's the he identifies the both. And it's what we've all been led to believe, that Israel is the wild olive. We are the grafted in portion, but we can't boast now, like, hey, look at me, I'm on the olive tree. We can't have that. We can't be arrogant. And in fact, when you go on to read the next, I'm going to read it, but then we'll talk about it. It says, so then will you say branches were broken off so that I might be grafted in? True, but so what? They were broken off because of their lack of trust. However, you keep your place only because of your trust. And don't be arrogant. And on the contrary, be terrified.
Be terrified. Why? Because you can be broken off. You can be cut off. And even go to John 15. And he says, the branches that are not producing fruit
are cut off.
Yeah. And we have fruit trees up. My window's over here, and I can overlook some of the fruit trees we have. We have pears and apples and all sorts. But anyway, what does my husband do every fall? He cuts off the branches that didn't produce anything. And so that next year there will be more branches,
right?
Because those branches that were producing will now sprout new
growth.
Lines,
new, right? And when you cut things back, it gives a plant more energy and nutrition to push into the fruit. So
And sometimes when it talks about in John that the Lord prunes the branches, when we prune a branch, we may not get fruit that next year when we prune those branches. Even though they're producing fruit, they won't produce because they take a little while to get their back to produce good fruit. So this past fall, we didn't get much fruit at all. But the year before, we had like 80, 90 pounds just from one tree.
Wow.
So last year, we probably had 10 or 20 pounds. Wow. But the thing is, it's just like what he does to us. He prunes our little fruit so that it will become big. But that word prune means to cleanse. So what is he doing? He's cleansing your life so you produce better fruit. And so it's that language, like of being cleansed and being pruned and all of that. So is actually the same words. So.
Okay. I wanted to make a note. It's on 297. He says, furthermore, Yeshua is described from a horticultural perspective in the Bible. He's not a root. He's always described as his shoot, the shoot of Jesse, or the shoot, or a vine. Okay.
Right.
And I think he has this in here. I can't remember, but even the word Nazareth, where he is from, means the branch. So that's like another little play on words there.
Cool.
Jesus isn't the root. He's the branch and he's the vine.
Because who did he come from? He came from David, and David was one of those natural branches.
Part of the root. Right. David is part of the root.
Yeah, and part of the root. But but he was also a branch in the tree because he's
right. He's part of the natural.
So Jesus is actually one of the branches, It's just that his branch is more significant and
Okay.
will never be cut off.
So this is what I want to read. This is what I was talking about. So when some elements of Christianity demand that the Old Testament and all that it represents is abolished, what's being demanded is that Paul's cultivated olive tree that we as believers are grafted into, the place where we receive our life and our sustenance, is cut down and its root system is dug up and destroyed, and that would be spiritual suicide. That's what I'm saying. That's what I was saying about we if we're grafted in, but you don't realize what you're being grafted into, and you're rejecting your root. You're rejecting the root, and you're just asking it to be dug up and thrown away, and that doesn't make sense.
And he explains it really well even above there. He goes, the cultivated olive tree is clearly the Jews, which you said, not believers per se.
Right.
But he said, but the natural branches of the tree that remain on the tree are believing Jews. Non-believing Jews are not on that tree.
Right.
Third, the roots of the Jewish people are the patriarchs.
Right.
But fourth, what makes the patriarchs is the covenant of Abraham.
Right.
So without that covenant, there is no father Abraham and no line of promise to hand down to Isaac and then Jacob. Without the Abrahamic covenant, there's no division of the world into Gentiles and Hebrews. Now, this author doesn't necessarily see it the way that Lauren and I see it, that we just like if you go to Galatians 6:15 and 16, he ends verse 16 in Galatians 6 with the Israel of God. And he said, it doesn't matter if you're circumcised or uncircumcised. It doesn't matter if you're Jew or Gentile. You are a new creation, the Israel of God. So it's important that we understand the way we understand it. We are the Israel of God because the only branches on that tree are those in covenant with Yeshua.
So he kind of does say that. It's a little further where he's talking about it was not an uncommon practice of people of the ancient Near East to take on the name of their gods.
Yes, and that was good too.
Right, Assyria, they call themselves Assyrians, but really it's because that they worship, I can't even say the name of it, Asherah or something.
Yeah.
They worship the god of Assyria. And so Israel, El is, the holy Elohim. So
they became like them. You had to become like the Assyrians in order to worship their God, because that God was the God of the Assyrians.
Right. And so there is some of that here, because I don't take on that wild tree isn't taking on my identity. I'm taking on its identity, and I'm acknowledging its roots. Right. I'm grafting myself into them. So I can't just say, hey, thanks for all that nourishment, but I'm just going to stand here on my own. No, I would be cut off.
And you're nothing apart from the root.
Right.
You're nothing apart from the root, or the tree even. But and just like when we've talked about adoption, because you have an adopted grandson. So what that grandson and any child that's adopted takes on
the family,
the cultural, any cultural representation of that family. So whatever that family
or habits of the family, or rhythms of the family.
Whatever they celebrate, that adopted child celebrates. Whatever they deem good, that adopted child is going to learn this is good. So we're adopted. And who was God's family? Israel. It was his family first. So we're adopted into that family. So that's why we do what they do, not for salvation.
All right. So I think this will be our last verse because we only have a few minutes left. It says, for if God did not spare the natural branches, he certainly won't spare you. So take a good look at God's kindness and his severity. On the one hand, severity towards those who fell off, but on the other hand, God's kindness towards you, provided you maintain yourself in that kindness. Otherwise, you too will be cut off. And I don't want to get too far into this, because this is where I push back going, wow, God's really in way more control than we give him credit for.
And we only have a few minutes.
You only have a few minutes. Can't give it justice. But he really goes into talking about the kindness of God and the severity of God and the hardening of hearts. That's where
So
he
it's
really
kindness toward those who trust, and the side of severity for those who stop trusting.
Right.
So we don't believe in once saved, always saved. And I know that's like going to upset
That's
some
hard.
people.
I know that freaks out people.
But what I do believe is that I can lose my salvation because I can choose to walk away and stop trusting.
Right.
It doesn't mean that Yeshua won't chase me and try to bring me back.
Right.
He will. But I am in control, honestly, of whether I stay saved or not.
Okay, let me say it a different. Hold on. Let me say it a different way. I'm in control of whether I obey or not.
Yeah, if I trust or not.
Yeah.
He's not going to remove me from his hand. So if this is God's hand, he's not going to pluck me out.
He doesn't snatch us away.
I can jump.
Doesn't remove us. I can jump. Yeah, that's a good way to say it.
I can jump.
Yeah.
I can abandon the ship and say I'm done with this. This is too much hassle, too many rules. I don't want to do it. That's what I believe. He doesn't throw me out of the family. I walk away from the family.
Yeah.
That is what we have control over. We can walk or we can stay. And it's just like going back to the betrothal, right? It was the bride always had control. She could leave at any time before they said, I do. She could get out of the covenant. So, but he says here, just besides, as Paul says, the only reason Gentiles are grafted in is because of our trust.
Yeah.
And if your trust runs out, you're no longer grafted in. So I think we're done.
I think we're almost there. Yeah, we have like just 30 seconds. So I think a good show might be what our thinking has changed since we started reading the Bible. What theology, how our theology has changed since reading the Bible. So,
right. Everything, hasn't it?
Everything has changed.
Because when you stop just listening to what other people tell you the scriptures mean and you start reading for yourself what it means, then you start learning. Don't trust everybody who tells you what it means. Don't even trust us. Go back and read things.
Go read it. Just go read it for yourself. All right. With that said, it's Sabbath, so go read your Bible.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, and thank you for joining us, and we will see you guys live next week. So bye. If you missed today's show and want to watch it again or want to tell someone where they can watch this episode, go to lambnetwork.tv, where you will find this show and all of the other live Lamb show archives on the on-demand section of the website. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to tell someone about the Messianic Lamb Network.
We are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussions, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take the tour of the lambnetwork.tv website. I'm Stephanie Pavlantos, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.